We are less than a week away from early signing day. Ben Spicer, Michael Langston coming your way here on Warchant TV for another live recruiting chat. We'll be taking your questions, talking Florida State football recruiting and more. Had some big news today, Michael. Won't you go ahead and jump into it for those that may not have heard what's going on in the recruiting world?
Yeah, obviously, some bad news just on the recruiting front of five-star defensive lineman Armando Blunt. He's decided to opted to reschedule his or not reschedule, but change up his plans as far as visiting. He's going to take an official visit to Miami. That's where I kind of lean. That's what I was kind of waiting for. FSU felt like he was going to be in this weekend. I think they've tried and worked, but he's going to go to Miami. That's I think a flip is pretty likely, to Miami. Let's just get that out of the way. I know there's going to be a lot of questions about it. I've heard there's get a nice little boost in NIL with that, but FSU's NIL, I think with that or the battles in was still very good. But like I said, when you're doing all this pulling, a lot of people pulling him in different directions. That's kind of where I sit. Now we'll see, how it shakes out. If he actually shows there or whatnot, or not, or something changes again where he decides to come to FSU, we'll see. But overall, results are the results, and that's something that FSU has to do better at as far as high school recruiting and defensive line recruiting. That's something that we've saw them do really good in the portal, and certainly this is a big win for FSU when they got him to flip back over to FSU. But at the same time, that's something that needs to improve for them going forward. Now, obviously, there's a lot of factors still that we have to let this everything process work its way out where I think they're very very involved and I think there's a really realistic chance that FSU could get LJ McCray, a five-star defensive lineman from Mainland. On that, from what I'm hearing, guys, and this is kind of what I've been consistent with. I've heard that it's mainly FSU and Auburn, and that it's not likely that he sticks with Florida. I haven't heard anything that feel to give me an indication they feel he sticks with them. And I would say that based on the intel I got, it's more likely FSU than it is Auburn, at least as of tonight. Now that a lot could change over the weekend. I don't know, but that's kind of the feel I get for that recruitment. I know another one that FSU fans are waiting on is five-star plus wide receiver Jeremiah Smith. I continue to hear positive things, confidence of FSU and it's getting more where I'm hearing from more contacts of the confidence with FSU and Jeremiah Smith. So if they were able to pull that off, it doesn't make up for if you don't get Blunt, but that's kind of what I'm hearing as far as some nuggets around those recruitments. I think Jeremiah is very sold on what FSU does as far as in the offense. I was told that the visit was they nailed everything, and then as the post stuff got went on, I heard a little more, some different people, not the same people, but just different people of FSU having a realistic shot to get there. It's not completely done until he whenever he does it on the 20th, but so far so good based on what I'm hearing about on Jeremiah is positive for FSU at this stage. I think those are the main ones. I think three-star defensive tackle Denos White. I've already covered him. I think FSU is in very good position for that one. I think they look really solid. Everything's seems to be pointing towards FSU from everything I've gathered. Outside of that, for high school, I think that's really there's not too many guys I've heard outside of LJ McCray and Jeremiah Smith that I think they're locked in or focused on. So I think most of the rest of the stuff will probably be portal stuff, and then go from there. But I'll let the questions people ask their questions in the portal, and then later, I'll give a few nuggets on just what I'm getting from the portal. But that's kind of where we're at in the high school market of where things stand.
Yeah, we'll talk largely about the high school game here in the first little bit of the show
Okay.
since the early signing day is coming up. A lot of people are concerned, and I think rightfully so, Michael. NK says still haven't landed a single elite trench recruit with this staff, not one. Man, no excuses. You either get the kid or you don't. Do you think something's going on with that? Is there a concern? I mean, obviously there's a concern, but what's kind of your perspective on that?
Yeah, I mean, in the day, I mean, PK's right or NK's right. I couldn't read your name there, NK, but NK's right that the results matter. And you have to get the guys. It doesn't matter what happened, or hey, they're from South Florida and there's a lot of pressure to stay home. It doesn't matter. It's like you have to get the guys in there. I mean, that's what your job is. Whether it's Coach Odell or Coach JP. I mean, that's their job to get the guys in there. Now they've done really good with what they've done in the portal. And I will say this to be fair, when they're there, the development is off the chain, all that stuff. It's fantastic. When they get the players in there, the development is there's no argument. But I agree with NK that you have to it comes down to results. And it's just like it's results based business of when you win on the field and when they go 13-0. Especially when you're 13-0, that shouldn't happen. So you should whatever you got to do to find a way get it done. And I know there's certain things that out of their control where certain NIL packages fit more with a recruit and than over others. But at the end of the day, you got to get the job done, and that's probably something that Coach Norvell and the staff had to address of where they go forward of what's not working, and they have to get it done. And now I will say this: we still have to wait for all this stuff to happen out, because if you add a LJ McCray, which I think he's more of a defensive tackle, and then let's say you add like two or three really good defensive ends from the portal, which is very possible. I think that kind of you fill the gap of what you had there, and you add more to the defensive, tackle position. But it's still you don't ignore kind of what the results are. You still have to something you have to address going forward that there needs to be something done. And needs to be something addressed, like something that's not working, whatever you're doing, and certainly it's I think something they have to look into.
Is there anything specific, Dr. B's wondering, what do you think maybe the main factor that prevents us from winning the five-star recruits to our rivals? Is it just our staff being worse or less aggressive at recruiting? Is it just a kid's preference? I mean, I know Armando's from the Miami area. I don't know if that plays a factor. A lot of people think it's NIL, probably is. But is there any specific thing looking back, maybe since Norvell has came here, that you can turn to or look to?
I don't think it's anything like specifically NIL of the value of what FSU NIL is doing. I think they're doing all the right things. I think it's more just stuff I've mentioned before, like Odell is on there. He's up there in age. That we can't argue that. That's just what it is. That people are going to use that against him. That hey, you're not going to be there for his career. They know what Odell does as a developer, and it's certainly not effort or time or energy or what they were putting in recruiting. I think that plays into it, but it's just also each one of these things are individually different. As far as some kids are more NIL centric or stuff that maybe a package in there for the player is just it catches their attention more, and some of it's just hey, there's a lot of pressure of staying home and being there, because there's a lot of people I've heard around Armando that are pushing to get him to stay closer to home, and that plays in the part of it. But as I said, results are results. It doesn't matter what the reasons are, but it's something that they definitely have to address and look into for the future of what's not working. And yeah, that's pretty much the main thing. It's like, is there a certain thing I can pinpoint? I know people asking on the board, like, is there something where no, it's like they're developing players, they're 13-0. Their defensive line was a big time strength that showed up in the ACC title game and most of the season. So no, there's nothing they're not doing product wise. It's just something's not resonating with the message to finish the job. Now they did get a commitment from him, so there's obviously they did something to win his attention as far as the development and the culture and all that stuff inside the program. But at the end of the day, we live in a world of results, and I'm the same way where you got to have results, and we're getting that from the portal, but you need to see that consistently, not just with defensive tackle, but just overall the defensive end room. I mean, that's something that consistently needs to keep evolving and getting better, and solve this dilemma of getting top high school defensive ends and top high school defensive tackles. So really, it's something that I think coach has to just look into and go from there. But I don't think there's like something you can just point your finger to, except for the thing they can use against Odell, or how long he's going to be there, or with JP that maybe he hasn't put ton of guy defensive ends outside of the guys that they got from the portal and they developed. But what they can highlight is their development. So outside of that, I don't think there's anything you can really just pinpoint that, oh, it's going wrong there, certain there. I think Norvell would have a more of a pulse on that than I would.
I was going to come into the show and be positive. This was before I read the news about Armando. And again, it's not official. You never know. Things could change. And you guys know I'm an optimistic guy. Obviously, I have the Pistons jacket on. So if I'm wearing that after as terrible as they've been, I'm obviously optimistic. So I made this graphic that I wanted to share. Again, bear in mind, this was before the Armando news. This is recruiting rankings under Mike Norvell per On3. And you can see a top 4 class. So I guess a big picture question for you, Michael, would be, assuming Armando does flip to Miami, what does that do to Florida State's class? It would still be top 10, I would imagine, if they were able to get everyone else that they still have at this point in time, right?
Yeah, I would say it's around the 7 or 8 mark. I would think that's kind of where they were at before they got Armando. And I cater in this thing is you get somebody like Jeremiah Smith. Jeremiah is the #1 player in the country, so that's going to balloon them right back up to that spot. If you add an LJ McCray, that's going to balloon you even higher, so probably to 3 or 2. So keep that in mind. That yeah, there's that is there, but there's also other guys still left in the picture that we have to wait and see of how it all unfolds. And like I said, I've shared some things on those recruitments, where I'm at, but overall, yeah, that's kind of where they would sit.
Some people are pessimistic, and I mean, you can understand that. But if you were to
Mhm.
talk to this base and try and kind of talk them down off the ledge, what would you say to them at this point in time? I mean, there's a long time to go before the season. A lot of things can change. We've seen Mike Norvell prove himself time and time again over these last couple of years. So, what's your message to the fan base at this point in time? Those that are being a little negative.
I can't say anything bad to them. I understand why they're pissed, and I pointed out the shortcomings, so I'm not going to do anything to cheer them up. I'll just say like it's a really strong class, as far as what they have, even without Armando Blunt, it's still a strong class. Now you do have a big visitor in KJ Bone. You want to solidify and get done, which I feel confident they will. Feel pretty good that that he will be in that class. You add in Charles Lester and all the guys that they have at that that DB position, and then the class in general is really strong. So and that's the thing. And two, you have very good developers on the staff. So you're going to get talented players, whether that you have to go heavy, more heavy than you expected in the portal. That's whatever. FSU's proved what they can get. So that's not going to be a problem. I address the things that are I feel like that certainly needs to be pointed out and improved on. But overall, you know, not everyone has great developers on their staff. A lot of people have good recruiters, but the coaching's very suspect. Miami, for instance, certainly very suspect in those categories of both coaching and development. But I think overall, you can't lose sight of what class you already have, and what you can potentially add to the class, both portal and high school. So that's the thing I would tell them is what you have and what you already have. So relax. Don't overthink the stuff of what's going to do, and let's see how this unfolds. And like I said, I feel if everything goes the way, at least I'm hearing already at this point, I think it'll be a solid close.
And just to build off that optimism, again, like I said, guys, I'm going to be positive here on the show tonight. I understand your concerns, I understand your grievances, but I think to your point, Michael, you would rather have someone, a coaching staff that widely can develop talent as opposed to getting all those big name guys. Because you look at those 5-star lists over the years, and half those kids oftentimes don't pan out. Maybe not half, but a good percentage of them don't pan out. So I think you'd rather have a staff that develops talent as opposed to the guys who are getting those big names that are 5 stars, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I'd rather have developers. I won't. You want some great recruiters. You want elite recruiters, and I know that moves the needle with people. But at the end of the day, it's what your product is on the field. Like it's what you do on the field. You don't get recruiting awards. You get title awards for you winning. FSU got an ACC championship. You don't get a championship for recruiting. Miami's had top classes nonstop. Leonard Williams is a great talent. He was a 5-star. What did they show for it? Nothing. They have no victories over FSU that I can remember. Maybe he did as his freshman. I don't know. But overall, you don't have a lot to show for it. What you show for it is what your product is. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. So yeah, recruiting is very essential. It's very essential where you want to stockpile and you want to be able to develop them at the pace that you want to, and getting talent is important. But as Jimbo Fisher has shown with Texas A&M, Miami's shown it at Miami with their teams. That doesn't guarantee or equal that you're going to be good. I'd rather have I'd love to have the mixture between the both, but if I'm picking one, I want somebody that's going to develop the talent. That's going to mean more. That's going to affect more with future teams and future players and future teams. So at the end of the day, that's what I look at. But I totally understand people being upset and down. But overall, I think you can't miss the point of what they already have in this class too. You can't just like, okay, Blunt's flipping, so life's over, and forget the rest of the class. Like, I mean, it's a great class as far as what they, and two, as I point out all the time, last 2 years, FSU has been phenomenal in the portal, and I don't think that's going to change. I think they're going to get some really good talent that comes in, and overall, once you get the talent in there, you just got to develop them, and then I just think people just need to let it play out and let the staff do their job, let them see what they come up with, get who they get, and then go from there. But you can bitch and whine once it's over, but it hasn't. We're not to that stage. I know everyone's kind of Debbie Downer, like they're not going to get this guy, they're not going to get this guy, or we're going to get this guy. It's like I think the problem is you have to focus on the whole totality of the program, not just hey, you lost a 5-star. You got to focus on what's going to finish out, how it's going to finish out, and what portal additions you get.
Long ways away, guys. Deep breaths. We're going to be okay. Brett asked nicely, so we're going to go to his question. He says, "Give us an update on high school linebackers and offensive line recruiting, please."
Well, there's not much to share on linebacker high school recruiting. Portal recruiting, I know that's going to be something that they very much target, Brett. I do believe I will have some names on that in the next day or so. I was told, I think they're probably going to take two at this point at linebacker. Offensive line recruiting, we've already covered that. All their guys are committed at this point. I think they're going to take two portal kids, probably an offensive tackle and a center. I feel good that they will execute that plan where they will get two guys that are pretty high value as far as in their eyes and in the market and how they fit in FSU. But that's kind of where we sit, Brett, of kind of those two positions. Again, I will have more names on the offensive line. I know there's certainly going to be more to add in there. I think former 5-star LT Overton is a guy on defensive line that I think is a possibility for FSU to get an official visit. He's visiting Alabama this weekend, but I think that's a guy I'm keeping an eye on that I've heard. There's a likelihood that he does visit. So just give it a little time, Brett, and I'll get you some names as far as the portal with linebacker and offensive line recruiting. But as far as the high school recruiting, I think they're pretty set, or they're set of probably what they're going to get at least right now. At least what I know now, Brett, as far as high school.
Vitus asks, I don't think we brought it up just yet. He said, "I missed it if we've already mentioned. Sorry if this is redundant. Do we keep KJ, or are we looking at Keldrick Falk Part 2?"
I think they keep KJ, not Keldrick, because Keldrick's already at Auburn, but I do think they keep KJ. I feel pretty good about that going into the visit. I don't think I think it's mainly FSU and Georgia, not so much Auburn. I think they've kind of slipped a little based on the intel I got, both in the afternoon and this evening. That's kind of the feedback I get. But I do feel like, I do feel KJ, it's likely for FSU.
JC Marr makes a statement, doesn't have a question, and I'm interested if you agree with this to an
Okay.
extent, maybe. With the current climate, having a hard time seeing high school recruiting being as important as the portal now. It still obviously has some importance, but do you agree with what JC Marr is saying there?
I think it's more evening out, JC, of both of them having very strong value. I think it depends on your position and what guys you have at that position, as far as the vitalness. I mean, I think if you certainly if you have a key hole in there, like with FSU at the edge, there's a key hole there. So certainly when you add Portal, it's more important than just landing a high school kid defensive end, because that likelihood of that guy playing and impacting your team is not going to be there. So I think it's really closer to 50-50 with how much the value is. But I think value is in both of them. Obviously, impact wise, yeah, definitely, JC, it would be Portal's more important. But if you're talking about putting in the nice cycle that you have with the room, having the guys that you want in there, I think that's where the vitalness of high school recruiting pops in.
We'll go to Tomcat's question, then we'll talk a little transfer portal. That sounds
Okay.
good to you, Mike.
No, I'm good.
Tomcat says,
Whatever.
I'm not sure he didn't give a name or they didn't give a name. Do you think we're still in the running for the offensive lineman from Pensacola, or has that door closed?
I don't know who you're referring to, Tomcat. You might want to look them up and then send in another question. I don't know who you're talking about. I know they have Jonathan Daniels, who's from Pensacola, is committed to him. He is coming, so he is committed and he is going to be there. But outside of that, I don't. You have to give me a name to what you're referring to. I don't. It doesn't pop in my head. A kid from Pensacola off the top of my head that I think you're referring to. So just find me a name and I can help you out.
I'm still in director mode behind the scenes. I just
Yeah,
banned the Miami fan in the chat, guys. Don't
good.
worry, I got you. Let's shift our focus to transfer portal here. Looking at Florida State and who they've lost, I believe it's up to 14 or 15 now. Most recently, yesterday,
Okay.
linebacker DJ Lundy, running back Rodney Hill announced via Twitter or X or whatever the hell it's called that they are entering the portal. Some fans were panicking a little bit, and I understand DJ Lundy, that linebacker depth, that's a position of concern. Rodney Hill had the potential to be the starter next year. But I don't think, again, I'm going to be Mr. Optimist here. I don't think it's time to worry. I saw on Twitter today that Oklahoma has their entire offensive line in the transfer portal right now, for example. So don't worry, guys. Transfer portal news. What are you hearing about the portal that you kind of want to lead with, Nuggets wise, Michael, to
Yeah.
start off our transfer portal talk?
Well, I think the first thing to mention is neither Lundy or Rodney are in the portal
Mm,
right now. They're planning to, and we've seen guys plan to. We
right,
saw
right.
last year where Joshua Farmer was actually in it, then pulled back out. Obviously, sick with FSU. So think that's a thing to consider. People forget like that part of it, that you have to wait till they're in there, and then there's stuff that goes on where they're talking and seeing how it goes and go from there. But I think that's the first thing. Both of them, yes. DJ was a starter, moved from reserve to starter. Used more. I think it was more Tatum and Bethune, but DJ was a nice third guy to have that really came in there. Certainly helped him in run support. He certainly has value with that. But at the same time, I don't know what the market's going to be for either one of those guys, because yeah, Rodney has a lot of potential and skill, but I mean, he had like 150 yards, last year, and and he got a good amount of carries. So not downgrade. I love Rodney. I think his skill is awesome. He's been awesome to me. He's a great kid and all, but I think we have to wait and see on that stuff and how it develops, both from the NIL perspective and just overall what they see out there as far as teams they look at. So I think that's the other thing. I would start with, just obviously, unless you're under a rock, everyone knows there's two quarterbacks visiting this weekend. Um, Cam Ward might be here as I do this thing. He's supposed to be here in the evening. Obviously, the media stuff is more so Friday, and then DJ arrives later Friday, but then most of his stuff is Saturday, as we've reported several times on Warchant. Obviously, both of them are very very great quarterbacks that FSU has a good relationship, and they've certainly made coveted in this process. I personally prefer Cam Ward just because he's a little more dynamic. He can add more to your offense of different things. It's not a big adjustment to what you had with Jordan Travis, although it's probably you're more comfortable with the passing and just the feeling in the pocket of stuff that Cam Ward does. But I think, and then with DJ, it's more very good weapon, had a very good year at Oregon State. A guy that, from an offensive standpoint, you wouldn't have to adjust as much because he's very comfortable in running that pro style set. He certainly can do the read option if you need him to, and he can certainly you know uh, you know you know get the ball out to different playmakers in the ways that you want. I just think For Cam, it's a little more explosive. But I think either one of them to me would be a home run because you caught like DJ's coming off a great year, and then Cam's the excitement level is off the chart, and I think both of them have a very impactful move for FSU in recruiting. Because whether you get one or the other, I think maybe Cam a little bit more, but I think both of them would certainly move the needle for top receivers, whether it's 2024 or 2025, that you would make an impact for. So I think either one of them impact your program significantly because people know who potentially could be the guy, going forward in their future if they're coming to FSU, whether that's a commit or a guy that could likely commit to FSU. I think that's important, but I think either one of them would work. I think with DJ, there's less I sell. I would think just the feeling I get that FSU seems to be in a good spot with DJ, and then with Cam, I think he's very intrigued and excited about kind of what this offense looks like, and certainly FSU can and do a lot as far as talking about quarterback development. They can kind of go through the stuff they went with Jordan Travis and the similarities and how they fit. And so I think that will resonate a lot with a guy like Cam. So it's an interesting dynamic. I'm going to be at more probably tomorrow first thing, and then what'll be interesting is if we spot them at the same place. That would be interesting. I would love to. That would be kind of a funny dynamic. But overall, I think it's going to be a big weekend and certainly will be fun. And I think it's just something I'm monitoring as far as which one looks like it's going to happen. I will say I do think they're going to add a quarterback from the transfer portal. I know that's
Mm,
not really going to limb too much with people, but I feel like it's going to be one of these two guys. Like
mm.
I feel like that's kind of where we're at because I think we're at the stage where the relationships are there, the selling of the product is there. I think both of these guys would covet a place like FSU. Now it's just about what you can do, and two, it's basically an interview too for the kids, or the
Right.
players. I should the kids are in college now, but it's an interview for the players of showing yourself of why this is you, why this is the best place for you. I think they'll do a lot of that. So it's not just you trying to roll the red carpet out and lay out what your program is. I think by now, 13-0, had a Heisman candidate, great offense. Offense scored nearly 30 points a game when Jordan was healthy, and all that stuff kind of speaks for itself. So I think the big part is what do you see in there of how you fit in there? Tell us why you're the guy. Why you should be guy. So I think that's the other thing. It's not just I think people view it sometimes as just being one sided, and a lot of times that's kind of
Right.
mistake some people make that there's two sides of this of when these kids are coming on visits. They're coming on visits too to see one how they feel about it, but also how the school feels about you. Because we've had several times where there's been
Yeah.
official visitors and then they officially visit that are from the portal, and FSU's like, nice kid, great talent, film checks out, but you know what? Might not be just for us. So that's what we have to go through, and that's why I haven't picked one or the other. That hey, it's going to be
Mm.
this guy or it's going to be that guy. It's like we have to wait and see how the visits go.
Feels like a good time to promote an upcoming signing day sale that will start tomorrow. Warchant.com. Unlimited access and scoop, $54.99 for 1 year. While we're on the subject of transfer portal, wanted to give a shout out to our Matt Lasair, man. He's doing a great job.
He's
They called
killing
him
it.
they
He,
called him ML2 on the premium recruiting board.
he's not an ML. He's his own. Matt's his own guy. Um, I cannot be. I cannot say enough great things about what he's done. He came to me and he's like, "Look, I want the portal." Like I was like, "You handle this?" He's like, "Yeah, I can handle it."
He's done
Now
great, man.
I've helped him when there's something comes in intel on my desk, and I've shared stuff, but I've mainly let Matt kind of orchestrate stuff. He's got really good stuff on there. He's got a written, kind of contact or whatever who interested, and then he has a more organized list, which I don't think anybody has.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody has where he's organized who's the priorities and he lists all of them, and then he's done a great job of getting up with a lot of these guys and tracking it down and seeing what's going on. So Matt's his own man, guys. He's no ML2. He's not a second of me. I don't try to make him me. I want him. It's the first thing I told Matt is like, I want you to be who you are, and Matt's done a tremendous job. He's taken the bull by the horns with that transfer portal, and I think he's done a great job. And like I said, some of this stuff's not easy to always confirm. To what's happening, who's visiting who, what coach is going to see them. It's like a lot of times coaches want this stuff quiet, so
Right.
you have to check on that stuff to make sure that, hey, is this okay? And so there's a lot of checking and digging and researching that sometimes it hurts FSU when you mention it too much of who they're where they're at and stuff like that. So Matt's really careful with that stuff, does a really good job, and I couldn't be more excited about the coverage of Portal, and certainly they got two big ones that are visiting this weekend. That certainly we have mentioned from the start that I feel like be a big weekend overall to find out, hey, who's it going to be if it is down to those two.
And I don't know if you guys saw on the channel. Of course, if you're a subscriber here on Warchant TV, I'm sure you have. We did a transfer portal tracker video. I say we. I edited the video. It was all Matt. Matt did all the work behind that. But that's been going to become a 2 or 3 time a week thing here over the next couple weeks. So definitely make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on those videos. Matt and I were talking with Tom Lang today about how often we were going to put those out. So excited. We'll have several coming out, probably one as early as Friday or Saturday with some transfer portal updates, and then several coming next week also. James B. Michael Langston, he says, Michael, what are your thoughts on these players using social media as a bargaining tool? It seems to be a trend now. Big thanks to James B. $100
Yeah.
in the bucket. Thank you, man.
Yeah, thanks, James, for that. I'm not a big fan of it. I don't think you solve anything. I don't think you help with the negotiation part, and I don't think it helps you with your future negotiation partners that you have with whatever school that you might be interested in. It can kind of puts a doubt in their mind of, is this going to be a problem? When you're voicing your stuff on social media, I think sometimes it's just better just to keep things behind the uh, behind the scene of the people that are involved in it. But I'm not a big fan of it. I hope it doesn't come a trend, James. But I'm definitely not a fan of doing your business like that.
I like this one for Florida Man in Texas. This is a fun one. He says, what does Michael's schedule look like for this crazy window? 3 hours of sleep and jacked up on vitamin energy for early signing day?
I'm just always around. I attribute it to a doctor on call. That's kind of me. I'm up late. People know that.
Yeah.
And so I do a lot of stuff just behind, and you get a lot of your best work done when you're doing it late at night. So that's a lot of times I do a lot of work. But yeah, my schedule is relentless, Florida man. I mean, I've had to charge my phone up 3 different times a day, and I have a really good phone. And it's phenomenal and everything. But it's constantly checking it, constantly checking on things, and then updating either on the boards or having or Matt does it. Just my schedule is pretty relentless. Obviously, there's a few hours you get with an hour or two, maybe with your wife and family, but outside of that, it's just I'm locked in on the grind. So whatever was going on, I'm on it. So and I see all your answers in there, guys. The people that are doubting LJ McCray, I'm telling you guys, they're a major factor. You
Mm.
don't have to believe me. That's fine. I don't care. But I'm telling you, you could put all your comments on there. Hey, he ain't coming here. That's cool. But there is a very legit chance with FSU and McCray. I'm not saying he's coming. I didn't mention that. I just told you kind of what I'm hearing. But for those people, just think it's oh, if it isn't okay, FSU, it's got to be Auburn. It's like no, it's FSU's very involved, very like very much in the picture. Now, will they get it done? We'll see. That I'll wait and see on the intel. But I mean, I don't know. I get the pessimism, but it's like that's what I've been told as far as what I'm hearing that FSU is very much a factor in that one, and it's definitely without question a possibility.
Little
I like
throwback for you there,
I like
Michael.
that. I like that.
Haven't slept
Yeah,
since.
that's one of my favorite times. I loved doing Florida varsity. I did that when I was at another outlet at Rivals, and I love my time at Florida varsity. That's kind of where it started. That's where Gene kind of came to me and said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And
That's when you entered the transfer
Yeah,
portal.
that's when my wife said, "Well, there's no decision to make. You're working for Warchant." She told me she didn't even let me decipher it, which there wasn't much deciphering. I mean, people know how I feel about Florida State, so it wasn't much to really break down. So once that moment, Gene wanted me, and I was like, "Hey, is a match made in heaven?" Because I've lived here all my life. I know a lot of certain things around FSU that I experienced it all. So yeah, that was a good old times though, back to Florida varsity.
A little transfer portal talk. A lot
Yeah,
of people are excited about this. It could be a potential legacy guy
yeah,
coming over from Georgia. That's Marvin Jones Jr. I think he just entered yesterday, maybe,
you're right, right.
or two
Last
days
night,
ago.
last
So,
night.
are you hearing any buzz circulating about Marvin Jones Jr.?
Yeah, there's been plenty of buzz with him well before that. I'd probably say for a month or a month and a half, I was told like he was going to go in there. Now you kind of hear that all the time. You're kind of like, okay, we'll wait and see if it happens. But it got louder and louder. Probably 4 weeks away from whenever he did this. This week, and then the message I got was, you know, FSU is a serious player. Now he's visiting this weekend officially. I think this one, as long as things check off, and I'll cover it in the preview. I'm not going to explain to everyone what I'm going to put in the preview, but I do think if it does go well, I could see it going quick. Certainly, FSU has a need at defensive end. I will say this: with there are other guys that have more early impact than Marvin, but he's a guy that overall skill set of how it develops. He's played a lot. He's certainly got a lot of playing time, even at Georgia in his time there. But I think when you fine tune some of that skills, I think he's a guy that can really help you make an impact. Just don't know if it's going to be like immediately. I think it'll be kind of almost Patrick Payton like, where it's like where we saw his emergence happen a little bit more, the previous year, and then this year it really took off, and so I think it's kind of similar to that. But I think he would be a fantastic addition, and like I said before, I do like where they sit, in this recruitment. I've liked it before he visited, and then now with the visit being scheduled that quickly, I think that kind of tells you it's kind of moving a little quicker than most people thought. So I think he's a guy that you can certainly use at the defensive end position. I love him the most at defensive end. I've watched him when he was at American Heritage. I just think he adds a lot of as far as the way he get his get off and the way he can get after the quarterback. I just think you have to fine tune some things from a technique standpoint that needs to be better with his game. He's not a full impact immediate guy. For people that are thinking that, it's not it. But I think you put him in there at that end and buck linebacker position. I think he's going to be a really good fit if FSU can win him over and knock it out and bring MJJ back home, and we'll go from there and see how that goes. But I do think going into the visit, I'd say it's positive.
Let's go to a question on the premium recruiting boards now. I said I was going to try and work some in. We touched on this a little bit earlier. Oh, I just lost it there. Sorry, guys. There we go. Don
Okay.
Knoll one.
Okay.
What's our answer for defensive tackle recruiting beyond Denos White? Well, there's several questions here. I was going to just ask you the first one, but feel free to
Okay.
answer those other ones if you'd like, Michael.
Well, I'm going to answer them later. Probably get some dinner and then I'll answer all your questions afterwards. But yeah, I think it's mainly LJ McCray and Denos White. I think that's where they're at. And then obviously they're going to add, I think, some guys in the portal. Certainly, when you lose some of the players like Malcolm Ray and guys like that, you want to add your depth and finalize it. Guys like Fisk and you know different pieces on your line that you have to play. So I think either way, they're going to go high school and they're going to go portal. So I think it's mainly those two as far as high school and then portal. I think they'll get into heavy with that as the as we go on with this process, for this portal window in December and into January or during January.
Paul Feinbaum is on the screen because of the ad. We're sorry, guys. We'll get him
Get
off there.
that piece of crap off my screen. I don't even want to look at that face.
We'll
Thank
get
you.
him off there now.
Thank you.
But yeah, Michael said he will answer your questions later on tonight on the premium recruiting board if you're waiting for
But
that.
yeah, if you want to throw some questions there, you can. It's up to you, Ben. But yeah, I will definitely get to all of them. I always do after the recruiting chat's over. So, but if you want to take some from off that, I don't mind it, or take some off the people that are actually here too. You can take some, whatever
Absolutely.
whatever floats your boat.
Drop your questions in the comments if you have any more for us. I know we talked transfer portal earlier. Carter Smith, who visited Florida
Yeah,
State a couple days ago, he has decided to remain at Indiana. So
that's always interesting.
that comes off the board. Yeah, if you watch Coach speak, that's kind of a surprise probably to some. We had Indiana's coach on there last week. What else can you tell us about the transfer portal? Is there any other names that we haven't mentioned maybe that you want to touch
Whew.
on?
Um, no, I think we've covered most of them there. I think you certainly have the Samuel Coloni kid. That Kaluna. If I'm messing up your name, I'm sorry, man. These names they come out of the portal are crazy. But from Pittsburgh, he visited officially last weekend. I still think there's a legit shot there. Kyle Kennard visited last weekend. I felt after that visit it was looking good, but now I'm
Yeah.
hearing, earlier today, this afternoon, that South Carolina was the team that's trending in
Mm.
that recruitment. So that one likely won't happen, but I think there's a lot of defensive ends out there. I think there'll be a lot more that we target and mention. I think you'll see a lot more visit. So I think they're going to get their plan as far as attacking that edge. And getting I think probably around three now. So I think there'll definitely be two or three in this class. But I would not, like I said, I tell people when it comes to portal, do not worry, do not panic. They have a plan of what they're doing. All this is expected. They know what's going on. They know what they have, and they know where they sit. And I think FSU is going to get some pretty solid edge guys when it's all said and done.
They've kind of dubbed Mike Norvell the transfer portal king. Look at the rankings over the last 2 years. That's as far back as it goes on the On3 database.
Yep.
2020, Florida State was the 33rd ranked team. 2023, they're 11th. I think they had a mid 30s now, but it's way too early to tell, Michael. Is there like a certain window for the transfer portal in terms of getting guys, or is that kind of just going to happen
I
sporadically
think
over
it.
these next couple
I
weeks?
think it's into January, but I don't know the exact date. Somebody can pull it up. I forget. I think it goes into January, and then that's the where the first window is cut off. There's a couple windows. So I forget the second window when it starts. Wasn't prepared. Yes, that window question, but I do know the first one lasts till around January 2nd. Somebody says so. I'm going to take Joseph at your word, Joseph. I'm going to trust you. So there you go.
Thank you, Joseph. We
There you
appreciate
go.
that. Young Bleak asks, any concerns with Lester in Colorado? We haven't talked about Charles
Yeah.
Lester. I think we've kind of assumed that he's locked in. Is that the case, Michael?
Yeah, I feel good about the situation now. But I did get a lot of. I wouldn't say they're all nice, but a few of them were
Right.
just kind of viral emails of mentioning what I mentioned over the weekend, that Dion was trying to pull some stuff behind the scenes of maybe influencing another kid to influence Charles to go there. I think they're still good. He is actually, last time I checked, he is still at FSU. I think he's supposed to be there this weekend and even the following weekend. So I think everything points to he will be signing at FSU. They did an in-home with him, and I think it went really well, as you would expect. And everything points to him. It's not going to be. I'm not even going to mention the guy that did it before, but I think things look good, that he will be a part of this class.
Our guy Matt, he clarifies, ends January 2nd to enter. Other window
There
is
you go,
April 15th to April 30th.
Matt. Always on it. Good
We
job, Matt.
appreciate you, Matt. Jim asks, this is a nice hypothetical question for
Okay.
you. Uh, Mike, if you were the coach, who will you sign, Ward or DJU, and who will you pair them up with in the portal?
uh, who they pair up in the portal, I don't know. But definitely, I think they're both incredible. And I've said this, and I think people know my feelings. Like for me, Cam Ward is the guy for me. Like when I watch him, it's a different dynamic of to me. You want the quarterback position is the most important because that just affects everybody. But I'm great with both of them. As a coach, I would be great with both of them. But if you hold a gun to my head and I had to pick one, I would pick Cam just because I think he's a little more dynamic.
All right, I like it. Shout out to HCA32 says, thanks to y'all for inspiring me to get into sports media and start my own podcast. That's pretty cool. Give him a little shout out there. Easy living 24/7. Which high school recruit can make an instant impact in 2024, in your opinion? Thanks again for all you do, Michael.
Well, I appreciate that easy. Without question, KJ Bolden. That's
Mm.
why I feel like he's the most important one. He's officially visiting this weekend. I think you want to see lock that down. I think FSU's going to want to know, like, hey, you coming? We got it. Are we good? And everything feels like it is. But for me, it's KJ Bolden. I think KJ can immediately you can insert him. Certainly, they lose a few defensive backs to graduation or whatnot. So I think that will be the guy that I feel like you could just jump right in there. I think he would be the medium impact guy. I think that's the guy for me for sure. If I was picking one, and then as far as others, I mean, it really just depends on kind of what the rest of they get. Uh, Certainly, if you pull either Jeremiah or LJ, I think with Jeremiah, really no doubt, I think he's going to be an immediate impact guy. Because in just my personal opinion, I think somebody's losing their job. When Jeremiah comes in there, because I've seen this kid physically all the way there. Just does stuff that other guys can't do. He's just so elite and to another level. So for me, yeah, if you somehow pull Jeremiah, it would definitely be Jeremiah and KJ. But certainly KJ on the defensive side for me. That's the guy. So, but that will be my feeling. Easy.
Angelo, we appreciate you. He's asking about Ohio State wide receiver Julian Fleming. Have you heard anything regarding Fleming? He entered 10 days ago.
Yeah, I'd heard he visited Georgia, and he was visiting somewhere else. It might be Nebraska or Oregon or somebody. I haven't heard anything regarding FSU. Really good receiver. Certainly would be a great fit with FSU. I haven't heard any like buzz around FSU. I heard they were intrigued with him, but I haven't heard anything like it's serious where they went to see him or stuff like that. I will add from the portal, I do think they will, if it's the right guy, they will take a running back. I think Jaquavius Marks is one that I'd heard buzz around during the week. Um, that he's a guy to keep your eye on because they had previously recruited him. So he's a guy that you kind of want to keep your eye on. But outside of that, as far as Julian, I haven't heard anything like really serious yet, Angelo, with FSU with him. But he would be a phenomenal choice. Like I think everyone could. I think everyone would co-sign for that. He's certainly a great receiver, and it's hard when you're playing with Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
and he certainly didn't feel like he was such a drop down. I mean, he was certainly a big weapon for Ohio State. So yeah, I think certainly Fleming would be a nice add.
Z-Chan, our guy, he says, since everyone is so worried, what's your opinion on transfer linemen versus high school recruit linemen? Is it better to get proven players than focusing on unproven high school talent? Z-Chan, we appreciate your contribution, as always.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always a now guy, so I'm going to say prove it now because you don't know. Like I said, these guys can leave at any time. That from high school, it's like so somehow Armando Blunt could go there and then hate it, thinks he's miserable, and then leave it like the first year. So I'm always big on for linemen to have the portal linemen. I just really prefer that. You want top tier guys, so you want to be able to mesh your growth as far as FSU has two really good ones I love and Jalen Early and Julian Armella. I think you're ready to go in there and contribute. So I think you want to have guys that you can develop in there, but I think from an immediate impact, I think certainly the portal is way you have to go. We've seen that on the defensive side with Fisk, certainly Jared Verse, and certainly other guys. So I think if you're looking for immediate impact, that's the kind of guy. But I think it really just works both ways. Z, I mean, really just because it's like it depends on what your depth is below those top tier guys like Fisk and Jackson and all those other guys. So if you don't have the depth, then I think high school is more important. But if you do have the depth, I think you have to get top premier guys that are going to help you right now.
To that point, James B asks, Michael, do you know if Daryl Jackson has gone through his NFL draft evaluation and what his status potentially is? I know that might be out of
I
the realm a little
Yeah,
bit.
that's a little out of my realm. I haven't heard anything, James, as far as that. I mean, I'm assuming that he's focused on one, the bowl game, and then two, coming back because he doesn't have a lot of film to go on. So I can't imagine the NFL evaluation will be really high. for him. So that's kind of my assumption of where it stands with him as far as going into the following season.
Tomcat asked a great question earlier, asking another one here. Michael, if they don't land Jeremiah Smith, do you think the staff would go out and get one wide receiver like they did Keon Coleman this past year, potentially?
Oh, I mean, I think they're whether they get Jeremiah or not, I think they're going to go get a portal receiver. I do think that's going to happen because they don't have experience. So whether they get Jeremiah or not, I think they're going to get um, a portal receiver. I think, or that's the plan to get one. So whether they get Jeremiah or not doesn't affect what I think because they still need an experienced guy. So I think overall, you want that experience. You got to have guys that we've seen how much that helps FSU's roster when you have somebody like a Keon Coleman or somebody that's experienced, that's been through the battles, and certainly those guys, like young guys like Hakeem Williams, you have Ja'Kai Douglas, you have Jandravius Jacobs, you have Portier. You also have just so many guys, but you want that experienced guy to kind of calm the group down and have everyone in the right direction. So I think overall, yeah, I do think they will add a portal kid overall, whether they get Jeremiah or not.
I like this from Steven. I was kind of curious about this earlier, but I forgot to ask you your thoughts, Michael. Does adding DJU or Cam Ward before signing day help your chances with Jeremiah Smith? I would imagine yes,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. There's no question. Jeremiah's told me many times he's looking at the quarterback position of what teams have. Um, so yeah, it's a big deal. Whatever quarterback, if it is one of those two, yeah, if you get one of those guys, it's a big deal. It's going to matter. It's going to move the needle. It's certainly going to make an impression. Is it going to make his for his decision? Yeah, I think it's just part of it, but it's certainly a very important part for him. He's highlighted that to me.
Florida man in Texas has some news for us. I don't know if you've heard anything about this or not. He says 2025 number one defensive lineman Amari Williams just reclassified to 2024 and scheduled an FSU visit. Have you heard anything about that, Mike?
I've been on with you, so obviously I can't check on that stuff, but I would assume he's correct. I'll look it up. I'll let Matt check on that. But I haven't heard that. But I know that's a guy they've coveted and liked, and certainly that would be a big development for FSU, especially after the Armando Blunt news, and certainly that would be big news. Getting him on campus, and like I say, he's a guy that's really liked FSU a lot. He's been on there FSU a few times, so I'll have Matt check on that. Maybe Matt could chime into the chat, and then after that, I might address it a little bit more once I do a little digging.
Florida man in Texas, if you're on the premium recruiting board, head over there. Michael is going to take some questions after he eats dinner.
Yeah,
We got to give my guy a break. He's been going hard
need
for
a
the
little bit,
last
need a little bit.
several weeks, so he's got to get some dinner, got to get some fuel in him for the late night grind that's coming out
Yeah,
later on
I will
tonight.
say this: like they. My FSU intel told me there's going to be one or there could be one or two more. They didn't tell me names. They did tell me one of them potentially is a defensive end position, but they wouldn't tell me who. So that kind of would make sense on what I was told earlier, but just didn't have the name. But that's interesting. Certainly a really good prospect and one that could certainly very much help FSU out a lot if they could pull that off. But I will check into that, and I'm sure Matt's looking into it and, and going from there. But I'll look into it and see what I can find.
As we wind down, Michael, if you want to kind of summarize your thoughts, where everything's at, we'll take one or two more questions if you guys want to drop some quickly in the chat. But just to kind of wrap things up, Michael, what's kind of your outlook on where Florida State is at right now, as we're into the final week before early signing day?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's overall it's good. It's not what perfect what you wanted. Certainly, the blunt news is a really big downer because that's the big position to need, and it kind of sucks booty. But it's not good. I mean, you don't like it, but overall, you like the way things are trending on certain recruitments based on the intel I have. But obviously, you got to finish it off and get the guys that are already committed and finalize that on December 20th. But overall, I feel good. I'm certainly not concerned in remotely with the portal at all. I know what they do, and I know things that are going behind the scenes and how confident FSU is in what they're going to get. So I feel good about the portal, and if they get who you know the good things we're hearing, then certainly it's going to be a very, very fun day for FSU fans if that turns out. Say they get an LJ McCray or Jeremiah Smith. Yeah, any scenario, that's a phenomenal day and certainly class. But I will. I think everything is close to on plan of what's going on. But overall, certainly we'll have a lot more. I'll have my preview coming up. I think we'll have a preview on that. Certainly, it sounds like I'm going to have to check and maybe add one or two more on there as far as official visit. But overall, I think it's fine, Ben. I think yeah, the news is a downer on Blunt, but at the same time, you got to see what else they get. I mentioned Marvin Jones. I mentioned all these other portal guys, quarterbacks. My main thing is I think it'll be a big deal. I'm not saying FSU needs to push for it, but everything works out and it clicks, and you see something with one of those quarterbacks. I think it would be a big deal if FSU got a quarterback in the fold this weekend. I think that would I think that would help them both with high school recruiting and two just solidify. It's kind of like once you get one transfer and you start rolling, the momentum starts picking up with that. So I think that would be a big deal for them if they can get that done.
Obviously, we're not going to name everyone, but maybe who are some headliners in terms of visitors coming in this weekend for Jane?
Yeah, I think it's like I want to say it's 8 now. Obviously, the commits you have coming in is Manisa ITT, offensive lineman from 4-star out of California. He will be there. Cam Davis is also taking his official visit this weekend. I've already pointed out KJ Bolton will be there on the official visit. The two portal quarterbacks will be there, and Cam Ward and DJ, and then you have Marvin Jones also coming in. Those are I think some of them. There's about 8 of them guys that's listed on Warchant. How many did I go through, Ben? How many was that?
Oh, I would say probably about 8 or 9.
Yeah, I mean, it's close. I mean, 8. I think it's 8. So, yeah, if you go over there on the PRB on my breakdown, I put the list, and we'll have a preview up soon. But I think it's around 8. Could be up to 9, depending on more confirmation on certain guys. But I think I covered most of. I'll say wide receiver Laway McCoy commitment. He will also be there, and then Jamari Howard. So I think that finalizes kind of the 8 that we know. And then if Amari Williams is visiting, then that'll make it 9. So yeah, very busy weekend. Um, no, I haven't heard anything about Kermani McLean leaving Colorado. I don't know if you want somebody from Colorado, to be honest, but um, just saying. But I have not heard that. But overall, that's kind of what we have right now. But again, this stuff is so fluid that there's more additions consistently popping.
Dave, we mentioned this at about the 35, 40-minute mark. We don't want to be
Yeah.
redundant here. If you want to go back after we wrap up here on the show, make sure you check out Coach Speak as well. We're going to highlight this promotion that we have starting tomorrow. That is tomorrow, December 14th. Oh, wait, I put the wrong date on there. Today's the 14th. Tomorrow is the 15th. That's when this starts. It's the signing day sale, unlimited access, and Scoop $54.99 for 1 year. Promo will run up to early signing day on Wednesday. Michael's going to be super busy. Matt's going to be super busy. We're all going to be busy bringing you Florida State recruiting content and more. So make sure you check that promo out. Head over to the Premium Recruiting Board if you have any questions that didn't get answered. Michael's going to get some dinner. Guys wondering what's going to be on your plate for dinner. What do you got? What do you got cooking up
I don't
tonight?
know. My wife is hooking me up with something, but she hasn't told me what. So I'll have that shortly, and then I'll certainly get to your questions. And if I have time, guys, I will try to do a summary, kind of a small summary of what we talked about, if I have a little moment. But I'll get to your questions. But certainly, I need to check on what Florida Texan brought in there, so I need to
Yeah.
see what's going on there. But overall, I think should be a busy time. We'll obviously have certain predictions, and then different features coming up as we close into that sign day, and then certainly wall-to-wall coverage on the visits starting this weekend on Friday with all the guys arriving, and we'll do what we usually do. We'll give you everything that's going on. I'll have certainly another war room and recruiting wrap on this weekend, and hopefully I'm sharing some very good news with you guys, whether it's commitment or whatnot. But I will let you guys know. And like I said, we have a ton of stuff coming up.
Appreciate all you guys who contributed with questions. James B. and Z Chan who contributed as well. We greatly appreciate all of you, and thanks for joining us for another recruiting chat. I'm sure we'll have a recap coming next week. I don't know if it'll be Michael and I, but if it is, we'll see you next week, and hopefully we'll have some good news for you. Remain optimistic, be positive, guys. It's going to be a great week. We're excited, and thank you guys again. We'll see you back on Warchant TV here soon.